All right, 15 minutes starting now.
All right. So, obviously, the first thing we need to say is spoilers for Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 2. This is the first and last time I'm going to say it. So, by the end of the sentence, you better be out of here. The same thought, the next thought I need to share is that we have to be quick about this. So, I don't think we can spend a lot of time goofing around at the beginning here. Let's just start digging into it, all right?
Yep.
So the first thing that I noticed was, well, of course, Peli. I want to say Peli Moto, but I can never be sure if it's. I think it's Moto, right?
Moto
Peli,
or
that's
Moto.
her name. Yeah. So she, is there like dealing with somebody with a broken speeder, right? I heard somebody else call it a pod racer, but it's not. I don't think it's a pod racer, right? It's like
I
a
don't
speeder.
think it was. Yeah, I don't think it was a pod
And
racer.
so that brings up, very quickly, the next thing I have on my list, which is the races. They were talking about the races. It's Boon to Eve, which I remember hearing in Episode 1. Anakin talks about Boon to Eve, and there's this race and whatever, right, which he ends up competing in. But that was a pod race. And I didn't realize at the time Boon to Eve is like a celebration. Apparently it's something to do with the Hutts. I don't remember. I read something about it after I saw that in that show this time. But it was kind of a fun tie-in again, right, to the prequel trilogy. But it doesn't look like it's pod racing anymore. And right off the bat, you see like racing around like in the city these like speeders. And I assumed that was the race that they're talking about. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. What did you think?
Yeah, I interpret it as this. It's like evolved. Like it's no longer like pod racing. It's still the same festival, but it's just with different, maybe more modern tech.
They celebrate it differently. Of course, like we don't know what's happened to pod racing since the Empire took over. Like who knows if that's even a sport anymore, if that's something that people really do. We know that in theory, one of Anakin's pod racer engines, which he sold, halfway through Episode 1, is used by, what's his name, who wears the Boba Fett armor in Season 2 of The Mandalorian. You know what I'm talking about?
I know who you're talking about, but I can't recall his name.
Yeah. But it was awesome. And what a weird callback. And, it's like Rey's speeder in Episode 7, like that was presumably a pod racer engine too, that she just like basically put a seat on. I love that, by the way. That was like one of my favorite things in the sequel trilogy. I thought that was so cool. I got the Lego set somewhere here. I love it. Anyway, I thought it was interesting, and of course, Peli's pulling a scam on the guy. Like they had the engine part. They were just I guess I didn't quite understand it. I assumed that like he had crashed it and they just gathered up the parts, but did they just like totally rip it off and then she just like waited for him to come in and then fix it for him?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's kind of funny.
I guess we're learning more about Peli all the time. She's a little sketchy.
Yeah, I mean that's what do you expect on Tatooine, right?
It's Tatooine. It's the most wretched hive of scum and villainy, right?
Yeah.
All right, so another thing I noticed, Peli, and it shouldn't be a surprise, I guess, but she speaks Jawa, which is hilarious. She's really did Queel speak Jawa? Because he sort of like intercedes between Mando and the Jawas when Mando's ship goes, gets torn apart and everything by the Jawas. Did he speak Jawa, or did he just speak like whatever Galactic Basic or whatever? Do you remember?
I
talking about
know.
Season 1 now. It's like episode 2 of Season 1, I think. Anyway, so she spoke Jawa, and I think maybe it might have been the first time that we saw a non-Jawa actually speak it. But she did say in Season 1, I think, or Season 2, I guess, that she actually dated a Jawa, right?
That's funny. Yeah, I do remember that now. Well, it's also interesting. Like I mean, this could be like a false statement, but like it feels like that was the first time, or one of the first times, we got like a perspective of the Jawas where they're not stealing. Like they're still stealing, but like it was like organized stealing. It was like not in the sense of like they're these things that like come and steal and run off. Yeah. They're working for someone.
Less scavengers, but they're more like operatives, right? They're like it's more organized, like a heist than just like opportunistic theft, right?
Exactly. All right.
Man,
R5
my
D4.
dryer or my washer. I'm sorry. Yeah, we got to get to that.
Oh.
My washer is going, so like it's shaking the whole house right now.
Nice.
So it's not an earthquake, and I'm sorry. Hopefully, it doesn't affect the audio.
No, the
R5D4
should be affecting me, if anything.
Yeah, it's true. So, what do you remember about R5D4?
Well, I mean, I know in A New Hope, it's A New Hope, I think. Yeah, where they're at Luke's house, or I guess Uncle Ben's and their house, and the Owens. He's shopping for a new droid, and it's like R2 and R5D4, and I don't know if it's the same, because like I think there's like a scratch missing or like some sort of defect missing. So, but yeah, go for it.
Well, I don't want to know you, but
no.
So there's so much going on with this droid. It's so funny to me that this is like he's become this like weird series jumping character, right? So he is the first one that Owen picks out of the lineup. He goes, not that one, not one. This, how about that red one? Whatever. And so he goes, whatever. He starts moving along, and then I think C-3PO is next, and he goes through that, and C-3PO convinces him to buy him, and he goes walking off, and then the red what he calls an R2 unit, which is an R5 whatever, blows his motivator, whatever. He goes like, this R2 unit has a bad motivator, look, and there is a comic, and I wish I could. I don't know the name of it, but there's a comic I've seen that implies that R5D4 did it on purpose because he is imbued with the Force, because he has midichlorians in his lubricant, and he could sense through the Force that it was important that R2D2 go with Luke and go on all these adventures and deliver the Death Star plans and whatever. That this R5 knew that all that was going to happen, so he intentionally sabotaged himself in order to save the galaxy. And so he's looked on as this hero somewhat. And last I heard, it is weirdly actually canon, I guess. I don't know. It's silly and stupid and hilarious. But on top of all that, this time they gave us something new, which is she said he had been in the rebellion. That after all his time in the rebellion, his circuits or whatever, whatever. She was just explaining away his being weird. But as far as we knew, he wasn't in the rebellion. He was just on this planet, So I thought that was interesting. That was a new bit of lore that they're building into the character. It was also funny that, the way that R2 built up this long-term personality, of being, brave and snarky and whatever. At the same time, this R5 unit is like a coward, I guess. I thought that was kind of funny. Interesting touch. No comment?
No, sorry. I was just thinking about time now. My bad. Got distracted. No, I mean, yeah, it is funny seeing the opposite of the droid he was trying to fix. Just this, coward. But yeah, so now he got the droid R5D4,
yes. Which,
and they're off to Mandalore.
We never really went into the whole thing with IG-11. I think that's going to come back around because he came to Peli looking for IG-11 parts, right? That's going to come back around. Maybe it'll be the end of the season or something. But I suspect that by the end of the season, he'll have IG-11, and maybe it'll be one of the very last things in the season that works out, and so it'll set him up for next season. I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree.
So what did you say?
No. I that's a good point. I think they spent a lot of time, bringing this at the beginning that it would be crazy if they just he never comes back.
Right.
No, I just said they're off to Mandalore after he gets R5D4.
So you and I have talked a lot. Some of it's been on the recordings here, but some of it has been just kind of when we're hanging out a little bit. I suspected that this season was going to be about Mandalore. Once you saw the previews, it was pretty obvious that it seemed like they were going back to Mandalore. I thought this whole thing was not going to happen until the end of the season. I thought we were building up to that. It was going to take, 10 episodes before we were at Mandalore. I was blown away that it was like, yeah, second episode, 10 minutes in, they're at Mandalore. Blew my mind. I was so excited.
They're moving fast. That's one comment I want to make about this episode is, well, two comments actually. One, the pacing felt really good. Like it kept me engaged the whole time. And two, I thought it was absolutely stunning. Like just him getting to Mandalore, getting out of the ship, and just the lighting was beautiful. Kind of have this like dark, grim look, and I don't know, it was a very standout-ish visual episode in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I love honestly, I've loved every planet that they go to. It's all been so stunning, and I think a big part of it is that big like whatever their big wall that they use.
Yeah,
I don't know. I know they've got a name for it, but man, that may just change. Like, I mean, not just Star Wars, but the way movies are made forever. Anything that needs like a setting, like why not? Like it helps the actors, it helps the audience. I think it's so cool. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It was really the setting was really cool, and like if you look closely, you can see that green. You remember the green crystallized thing on the little like stone tablet that he took to the armorer?
Yep.
Like you can see that green sheen every now and then, even in like the mutant dudes who attacked him, the Elamites, I think, right?
Yeah, Elamites. Yeah,
I have it written down somewhere. Yeah, but like you could see it in their weapons. Like their weapons are made of that stuff. I thought it was fascinating. Like the little touches like that. I'm like, man, these guys they're paying attention. Yeah, it's really cool.
Well, obviously I don't think we saw the Elamites any before. Maybe we did in Rebels or something, or like an animated.
No, they're as far as I can tell, they're totally new. I had never heard of anything, and I couldn't find anywhere online that they existed already. So my guess is the first time. But I talked about them. Bo-Katan mentions it's a little later in the episode than we're talking about right now, but she mentions that they used to live like on the surface, below the surface, something I can't remember exactly, but it was
kind of like off in the distance type thing. Like
certainly separate, and we've seen Mandalore, in the time of the Clone Wars and everything. So like we knew that at that point, like they didn't seem to be part of Mandalorian society or anything. So if nothing else, they're outcasts, but maybe they're mutants or monsters or something. Like I wondered if they were like, it's science fiction. Maybe there's like mutated Mandalorians who got left behind or something like that managed to survive. But apparently they existed beforehand. So that's where that theory went to the window.
So when as they were kind of about to like enter the system, or not the system, but like the planet, we kind of learn about where Din grew up. Which is pretty sweet.
Yeah. So Concordia, right? That's the moon.
Yep.
Around, I think it's the moon.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the
just
other
outside.
There's another planet, and that's where Bo-Katan's little castle's on that other planet. But the moon is Concordia.
Correct.
And I hope I'm not wrong here. I'm pretty sure that Concordia is where like there's some question, Obi-Wan and Anakin or who I can't remember in the Clone Wars, they go and they visit and they've heard that there are these like there's some like dissenting voices or whatever, and Duchess Satine is trying real hard to keep them like neutral in this war and they're pacifists and all that, but it turns out that that's where Death Watch is born from, this sort of like wanting to go back to like their like sort of warrior ancestor ways, and the Death Watch guys, who are joined by Bo-Katan, and that's where we're introduced to Bo-Katan too. I think that they start out on Concordia, like they sort of hide themselves because the capital and everything, is on Mandalore. But it was like when he said that, I was like, Concordia. Like I was trying to remember exactly what the story was, but I think that's it. That like that's where they, Obi-Wan goes and he discovers that like Death Watch is there, and it reveals a whole bunch of stuff, as I recall. Again, if we have even a single fan that knows what they're talking about, I'd love to hear if I'm wrong. I'd love to sort that out. It's been a while.
You're probably wrong.
I probably am. Just making stuff up here. So what's next?
Okay, well, this is kind of so we just talked about in our last episode that we were kind of like wondering if the helmets were pressurized. They are.
Yeah. Well, and again, we've heard the hiss, which I compared to the Darth Vader helmet closing, right?
Yep.
you know, man, I don't want to pretend like I know everything about filmmaking and people are stupid, whatever. Obviously, they know what they're doing, but there were a couple of moments with the pressurized helmet later on that got me when he's underwater and everything. Like, I assume he can breathe fine, right? I guess I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know if they've got like an oxygen supply. If it's just like it's sealed so you can breathe the oxygen that's in your helmet. I mean, it doesn't seem like they've got any external tank or anything, you know. So I don't know. So maybe it is
I
just
th-
like you've got a pretty limited supply in there. But like
I think
when they
that's where
come back,
sci-fi comes in like the
yeah,
genre, you know.
yeah. But when they come back out of the water, they're like coughing and stuff, and I'm like, "You a little water in your helmet? What happened?" You know. So I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
But I did find it interesting, and I was like, okay, so we know now. Like even here underwater, whatever, they're pressurized enough that I assume they did fine.
Yeah. One thing I did want to talk about that was pretty standoutish for me. Also, that's the second time I said that word. Got to work on my vocabulary.
That's
Uh,
all right.
Din kind of sucks with the dark saber. I mean,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
kind of see it. I mean, I feel like he wielded it slightly better in season 2 at the very last episode. But like it seems like he's gotten worse, or maybe I'm just being over dramatic about it. But Bo is like pretty sweet with it. Like she's like obviously
man.
wielded it in the past, but like she's like it's like a feather to her.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Again, we've talked about this. This is one of the sort of hazy areas, and maybe it's explored in some of the books. I don't know, but we don't know, in my memory, a lot about the time that that Bo-Katan had the dark saber. Like I know that she had it. Sabine Wren gave it to her, right? Um, so I know that she had it for quite some time. I shouldn't say quite some time. I know that she had it for a period of time. But she clearly is skilled with it. You know, when she goes in to save Din after he gets captured and all that. And I don't know if we're going to talk about that, but she is clearly like an expert, right? And you see Din waving it around when he's getting attacked by the Alamites, or I think it's the Alamites, and he's swinging it around like a baseball bat, and it's heavy and everything. It reminded me of, because he did use it against Moff Gideon. Oh no, he took it from Moff Gideon. He was using the spear against Moff Gideon, and he was pretty good with that. Again, it's a basic like martial weapon sort of a thing. He was good with it, but the Darksaber's just giving him trouble, man. And I don't know if this is leading to him handing it over to her, which again we know doesn't.
Well, she doesn't want that.
Well, it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, like the Mandalorians don't respect that, right? So,
but also her motives were really odd in this episode. Like they've been odd, but this one, there was a line that I should have replayed it before saying this, or before the episode, but when Grogu goes back, so Din gets captured, by that cool looking like one-eyed robot thing, which is I thought was really cool. I don't think they said the name, but he sends Grogu off to like get Bo-Katan, because also like Bo kind of knew like their plans and whatever. Yeah. And the ship arrives.
She's on the moon. Sorry, yeah, she's on the moon too, or the other planet in her little castle. Yeah. She's like not far away. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly. So like Grogu takes the ship back with R5D4. They like land, and she says something to like her like I don't know. I don't want to say secretary, but like personal assistant type thing. Yeah. I don't know.
Your droid butler.
Yeah. She says a line. It's almost like, "Let's end this once and for all," I think was the line.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is that supposed to mean?
She's kind of a dirtbag sometimes, man.
Yeah, but then like she goes and then she like saves his life and stuff. I don't know. There's something.
Yeah. I think, I mean, she's obviously like, she's conflicted. She's a complicated character. She's got all this weird history with, I think she's got this sort of burden of guilt about her sister's death and her involvement with Death Watch and all the harm that's done to the Mandalorians. And she even says at one point in this episode, and I loved it when she said it, that like, and she's absolutely right, that like one of the biggest problems that the Mandalorians have had is themselves. You know what I mean? It's like, because they're constantly at odds with each other, they're constantly fighting each other. They're like, they're always keeping themselves back. It's like if they could just unite, they could have strength and they could rebuild and all this. And anyway, but the whole attitude towards Din, I don't 100% know what it's about for sure, but I think that, well, she resents him for having the Darksaber, right? I think she's irritated
that's clear.
at him for having it. I think she's irritated to begin with, and we talked a little about this last time. She's irritated that the Darksaber has this power, and that she, with her, both her bloodline and her like leadership skills, can't prove to anyone that they should follow her. You know what I mean? That alone isn't enough. Her being, a warrior, her being all these things, is like they won't follow her unless she's got the Darksaber. And like that kind of sucks, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, I can understand that being irritating. And you orchestrate this plan to get it, and then some other dude who, is essentially an ally gets it anyway. And so she can't even challenge him. She can't even fight him because that doesn't seem right, So I can understand her being like angsty and everything. But yeah, I think she goes out there. I think in truth, she really admires Din, and you start to see that a little more as the show goes on. But like, so when she goes out there and he's like clearly in trouble, she's immediately like, oh, she sets aside her like her issue, whatever, with Din and her irritation about everything, and like goes into like help my ally mode,
Yeah, and you kind of see like through like little conversations how you kind of feel like she thinks it's charming or cute, like how he like is so dedicated to like the old religion type thing,
right.
All the old ways.
Yeah, man, you're absolutely right. It was like, I don't know, man. It's a little hard to tell. She even says at one point, I think it's Grogu's looking at her, or I don't remember. And she's like, "What are you looking at? Like, shut up, Like, I don't know if Bo-Katan is crushing on Din, but like, it really feels like there's a sort of like weird like admiration, maybe respect over his like seriousness about what he believes and the creed and everything. And I think a lot of the Mandalorians that Bo works with are much more like, I mean, they're much more the mercenary, than he is. He's this like almost religious zealot. And I think I wrote in my notes that she's like a like a Christmas and Easter like Christian. Yeah, I mean, it's like she's kind of like, she shows up once in a while, but it's mostly just like tradition and stuff. It's not really like faith so much as like it's just kind of a thing we do, And she talks a little about that, like the ceremonies and stuff that she was a part of, and how she made her father proud and that sort of thing. But it was just that; it was just ceremony, But for Din, it's like this is, when she talks about her dad dying in defending it, he goes, "This is the way." Like he's like, respect, like that guy defended the planet, like he did what he was supposed to do, kind of thing. It was interesting, but like you start to see this like seed of something growing in her, and I don't know if it's like, I don't know. I don't know if it's like hey, maybe I could follow this guy. Maybe I could support him. Maybe I can be his like right hand, whatever, But like maybe he's the leader Mandalore needs. He's the guy that we need to be following or something. I don't know, man. I would kind of
I mean, that's definitely a good thought. I think the other thing, the way I interpret it too, or another possible direction, is like it's kind of the teachings she needs, because she's kind of been this independent like leader and like really goes crazy on that front. And we see in Star Wars history, but also this is true to be in life as well, is like, it's good to have a community that surrounds you, and you kind of band arms with people. So I feel like it's also just, she's also growing, which I can see her becoming the leader, but through this, it's teaching her those lessons as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're absolutely right. It's cool to see her, I don't know, because she's so confident, right? She's so self-assured and whatever, and so she's so sort of self-righteous and everything. So to see her kind of like for a moment, just, I don't know, we might be reading a little too much into it, but just to sort of like see this glimmer of hope in someone else and be like, huh, maybe there's something I don't have, like that's cool. Even if it is, some religious zealot that's in a cult, Yeah. But man, gosh, I feel like we're jumping all over the notes here, but like,
there's a lot to talk about, and that's the problem. It was such a good
episode. We only got like 5 minutes left, so we got to hit these things right.
Well, I don't think our viewers will kill us if we're a minute over.
Yeah, I know. Our 1.5 viewers. But yeah,
I think Carl will be fine.
Yeah, Yeah. Let us know how you're doing in the comments below, Carl. So anyway, the whole like Mandalorian connection to the planet was really interesting, you know, and sort of so honestly we're skipping a little bit, but Mando gets captured and Grogu goes off, finds Bo-Katan, brings her back, and like she's giving Grogu this little like lesson on the way down about like, yeah, it wasn't always like this, you know, and my family used to rule all of this and everything. And it was like it's just sort of this like funny little like, you know, talking to Grogu, who's certainly not going to talk back, but like it was a fun little like character moment for both of them, and it was a chance for them to do a little exposition, you know, tell people about this stuff. Yeah, so that let's talk about the weird robot thing down there that captures him.
Yeah. Because I see in your notes, which I agree too. It did remind me of Grievous.
Everybody thought that for a second, right? Yeah, I thought it was Grievous for like not just a second. I was like, I wanted to look at Dave Filoni and be like, what are you doing? Are you trying to tell us this is General Grievous survived the like blaster to his like last surviving organs and the fire coming out of his eyes and everything in episode 3? I was like, come on. But it was just so alike in the way he moved, his posture, and his voice. I was like, how can that not be? Anyway, all that is to say, I am like 98% sure that it's not. It just seems like they're doing a lot of, they're not quite dead, you know, lately in Star Wars. So who the heck knows? I don't think it is, but it could be. But
I don't think it is either. I think it just like, I think it was just I think they pulled inspiration from that character and they just kind of made a new, like a, you know, because it looked different enough. And I mean, that thing was creepy. Like I definitely was watching that, looking at that eye move around. It reminded me of, I don't know if you've seen Harry Potter, but the one, I forget his character name, but he wears the eye patch. That moves around.
Moody something. What's his name?
Yeah.
What's his name? Mad Eye Moody.
Mad Eye Moody.
Is his name? Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah, it's real creepy, and it was a little hard to tell what's organic and what's not. But I think that eye and maybe some chunk of a brain is all that was left of some organic creature. Very Grievous-like though, and very interesting, and like I said, if nothing else, it was like the fake out in the last episode where they're like, oh, maybe that's Mando growing up. It's like, just kidding, it's not. You know what I mean? It was that same level of like making me question it just long enough to then be like, no, definitely not.
Also, I'm pretty sure he's dead, right? I mean, that was pretty.
Yeah, well, like I said. Yeah, I mean, like what? Obi-Wan's hanging off the cliff, and he's like, pew, pew, pew.
No, sorry. I meant the new guy.
Yeah, the new guy seems dead too.
Okay.
Who the heck knows?
Yeah, they're robots.
Yeah.
Kind of robots.
I loved seeing. Yeah, I loved seeing. I know there's a name for this class of ship and everything, but I don't remember it. Bo-Katan's ship, the old Mandalorian ships that have like, you know, the central piece and then like the wings that fold up when it lands. You know what I mean? Oh, I thought that was so cool.
I think I got that Lego.
And it's cool seeing those in live action. Did you?
I think so.
That stuff is really cool. And you know, there's this weird shape that the Mandalorians do with everything, which is the mythosaur head. Which, man, I don't know. Should we? Oh, real quick before we get to the mythosaur.
Yeah.
Which, spoiler alert again. You know, 28 minutes into our podcast.
Like we didn't spoil it already.
Right. There's a moment where when you know Grogu and Bo-Katan are finding their way through the cave to find Din, where she says something about like well, I need you to lead me here, like whatever, and Grogu, what is it she says? I need you to guide me to him. Can you do that? Whatever. And Grogu kind of makes a little noise, and she goes. Bo-Katan gives this little look, and it cracked me up so much. It was just little, like Brie called it like a sitcom moment where somebody like makes a little like face, you know. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, she said. I think it was like she said some line around like, "I know it's scary" or something, but
yeah, there were a couple of good moments there. This weird little like, not quite motherly thing that she's doing, but certainly like she's like, "Hey, look, I understand this is scary, but we got to keep going."
Yeah.
Mm. 2-second little tidbit. Pog soup, and do you think that there's going to be a Mandalorian cookbook? Like, from like...
like they'll merchandise it?
Great Grandma Bo-Katan, these are all her like recipes, and Pog soup's going to be in there, and I guess I don't know what else they eat.
Obviously, like, we eat animals in real life, but these little Pog creatures are so funny and cute and have a personality.
I'm sorry, are Pogs a real creature here?
Yeah, they were in Return of the Jedi, or it's not Return of the Jedi.
No,
Last Jedi.
You're thinking Porgs.
Oh, that's right. My bad.
Yeah, I was really excited when you said this. I was like, oh my gosh, is there a little creature that we know they're eating now? It very well could be, but all I can picture is little cardboard discs in like a broth.
Oh, that's much lamer.
I was gonna say, you get my joke though, right? Are you too young for that? Pogs. All right, let's move on. This is depressing.
Yeah, I don't think I know that one. But
you don't know what Pogs are?
Well, I know they're in the new Outer Banks. I think Outer Banks has Pogs. Oh, man, there's too many like Porgs.
All right, Pogs. We'll talk about it later. I'm not going into this right now. So, the next point I want to talk about.
Pogue. It was called Outer Banks. Their clan is called Pogue.
Okay.
This is all too close together.
All right. We'll do an episode on that too. Okay, does that make you feel better?
No, we don't need to.
All right. You're talking about character growth here and people bending a little outside of what their normal thing is, right? And we talked already about Bo-Katan, and like she's leaning a little more like, I won't say compassionate, but teamworky at least. You know what I mean? She's a little more like she's concerned about Din. She wants to help him, despite her like grumpy exterior, right? She's still looking to unite Mandalore and all that, right? But also Din talks to Bo-Katan with this sort of like, he uses the term "our kind" a bunch. You know what I mean? And he's learning about his people's history from this person who, in his mind, is like kind of not a true Mandalorian, by his culture rules. So like, I was kind of surprised.
I mean, she's walking around with their helmet off.
Yeah. And like, there was a time in season 2 where he was like really against that, and he gave her a hard time about it. And she basically made it clear right then. She's like, I mean, without saying it in so many words, she's like, "You're the weirdo, not me. Like this is the way Mandalorians really are, and you're weird for keeping yours on all the time." But I thought it was a cool, again, like that nobody said anything, like, oh well, I guess I can assume that you're a true Mandalorian or whatever. But like, he's clearly grown a respect for her too. This sort of like, you're not a monster. You're not I don't know, whatever. He's called an apostate for his situation. It's just crazy to see that kind of growth. It's cool, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. What's even crazier is the fact that, I mean, and like, we saw the mythosaur. I mean, like,
yeah,
second episode. I mean, that's.
Did we talk about the mythosaur on the recording? Do you remember?
I think we had. Yeah, I think we did. I think we
maybe it was on our 2.5 hour like secret subscribers only video that we put together, but that we're never going to release.
Yeah,
but we both talked about like, it seems like it's heading that way. That there's got to be a mythosaur at some point. He was mentioned in the first season, and then it's been brought up a couple times since then. And even like the beginning of this episode, they replayed a part where apparently I didn't remember her saying it before, but the armorer said something about the mythosaur, so they replayed that in the opener to this too. So I was like, they really are leaning into it. But I thought, much like them returning to Mandalore, like I thought this wasn't going to come up until like the end of the season at the earliest. I was
which makes me think there's even a bigger arc, or is like a bigger tipping point.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because I thought the same thing. I was like, this makes me so excited, because I'm like, this is the thing that I thought we were building to, and now that they've reached it, it's like, oh my gosh, what's really going to happen? And like, what is their real plan for the end of this season and everything like that. I'm excited. I'm excited about it.
Do you think Mando's gonna ride it, like similar to like how Boba Fett rode the Rancor in Book of Boba Fett?
I sure don't know, man. That would be weird. Here's what I want to say, and I have more confidence in this theory than I used to already. But I have this theory that Din is somewhat force sensitive. Right? I'm not saying that he's going to be a Jedi. I'm not saying anything like that. But I think the first time that I thought, so there are all these like weird external force powers, right, that aren't in the movies or whatever. Recently, I know some people were up in arms when Rise of Skywalker came out, and all of a sudden Rey could like heal grievous wounds and stuff, right? She heals the giant like alien snake or whatever, and then doesn't she
heals Adam Driver's character, or Kylo Ren?
Yeah, doesn't,
or Ben, I guess at that point.
He dies. Then he dies. How does that? I don't remember. It's been a minute.
No, so she heals him on the Death Star, like abandoned Death Star in the water or whatever, and then at the very end, he heals her. So he also learns it.
Yeah. Well,
and then they kiss, and then
forced
he dies.
dyad nonsense too. Yeah, a lot of nonsense in there. But anyway, there are all these sort of like, outside the movies force powers and things, and one of them that I remember, and I can't remember if it's from the Knights of the Republic games or something, but there was this like animal friendship essentially that like you could sort of calm animals, and like even at the extreme end of like if you really leveled it up, you could like have them help you attack bad guys and stuff or something. I think it's been a long time again, but I suspected that Din was doing that a couple of times in the show. In the first season, he like when Queel gives him a hard time about not being able to ride the and I talked about the blurgs every time and I can never remember their name, but he wants him to ride the blurg, and he goes like, your ancestors were the great mythosaurs, certainly you can ride this young foal, right? And so he holds his hand out, and it's like very like forcey the way he does it, and slowly, little by little, he approaches, and it calms down, and he rides it, and like that's it. But I feel like there have been a couple of moments, I couldn't think of the others, but I feel like there have been a couple of moments like that where it's like, does he have some sort of like hidden, latent like force sensitivity that's allowing him to do this kind of thing? And that's when, I mean, again, this is like first season, I think, that I was like, I bet one day he befriends or rides or tames a mythosaur. And I still have that feeling, but I don't know if he's going to ride it. Like, that sounds silly. And like, what else are they going to do with the mythosaur besides kill it? You know what I mean? Is that what this is going to come down to? Is it going to be like that episode in Clone Wars where they have the big lightsaber-resistant lizard climbing around? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, I feel like one of two things could happen. They like use it to their advantage, right? It becomes a weapon, like taming it. Goes along the lines of what you're just saying. Or two, like they kill it, and it's kind of like the past dies with it, and like you could look at it from that angle too, where it's like Din actually growing instead of Bo. Yeah. Maybe that's holding it back, the old religion. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. That's an interesting perspective. I wonder too. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole. I mean, we could go into. Gosh darn, we're running late. There's this whole thing you could go into with like, why did it grab him and pull him way down, and then not kill him, not eat him?
Yeah, that was really odd to me.
Yeah, and why sit there and watch Bo-Katan come and save him and not do anything about it either? It was like, I almost wonder if this is going to become like, this is a sign of religious, like, like there's a prophecy or something, whatever. I mean,
maybe this thing isn't a killer against Mandalore.
Needs to be the king somehow. Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just like a symbol and they leave it alone. I don't know. It seems unlikely, but what a thing, man. And it was such a like, being the symbol of the Mandalorian people and stuff, like, as far as I know, we never had any clear picture of how big these things were, and that looked huge, like Godzilla huge.
I mean, we don't even see we see like his eyeball pretty much, and it's like, geez, the scale of that.
Well, you see the tusk.
Well, cool.
That's what gave it away. I mean, obviously we were all.
Oh yeah, the tusk.
But I was like, oh my gosh, the tusk. He's got the tusk. But I mean, here's the thing. You know, maybe my little signing off point is, I think that they what is this going to mean for Din? What's it going to mean for Bo-Katan? Like, I wonder if this is a faith thing for Bo-Katan, and she starts to lean more into maybe not the cult, but like she takes her own, like religion, history, whatever, a little more seriously now. But like, what do they do? Are they going to go? Is he going to go tell the armorer? Like, yeah, I bathed in the water and I saw a mythosaur. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with it. It blows my mind.
Yeah. Do you think the next episode is going to be a dud, or do you think it's going to be good? Because it's always a filler smudged in between good episodes. That's just TV.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I said, my problem is all my predictions were based on this building up to him getting to Mandalore and seeing a mythosaur and all that kind of thing. So like now I'm kind of like, I haven't thought this far ahead. What are they going to do if they find a mythosaur?
What if they were like, I mean, like that was the season finale?
Yeah, that's just it. Like, oh, you guys wanted more? No, I think it would be pretty stupid, pretty silly if they did the Boba Fett Rancor treatment. You know what I mean? That it's just like his giant pet. Like, I think that'd be really stupid. I hope.
Yeah, this type of creature is a little bit more serious than So I feel like.
But like, what do they do with it? It lives on a desolate planet, so it's not like it can go rampaging and they all have to kill it to defend, Mandalore or something. Is it just like, oh my gosh, this is a symbol, this is a thing, this means we all need to go back to Mandalore now? I don't know, it's weird.
What if?
But also,
what if it's Palpatine resurrected as an animal?
Yeah, maybe it is. This is his early clone form or whatever. I sure wish
that was it. That for those listening, that was a obvious joke.
For those listening, it was obvious, so you should have picked up on that. All right, man. Well, one last thing I want to mention, I keep forgetting to say. There was a minute where I thought Bo's going after Din in the cave to get the lightsaber. The dark.
I thought that too. Like, he's gonna die or something, and then I'm gonna snag it.
Yeah, there's a moment where I wondered about when she went after him in the water. Is she going to be like, oh, he's here, but there's the dark saber right next to him. I could just take it. Like, but she of course didn't. So like, yeah, I don't know. It's just a little hard to nail down her motives.
I think she's waiting for him to get dead so that she can feel. Because I feel like there's probably some rule where if the person who owns it dies, it's up for grabs. You know what I mean?
Because clearly then she has to fight Grogu.
Well,
it's like inheritance.
Family drama.
Yeah. All right, man.
Cool, man.
But crazy stuff and like wild, like exciting. Beyond what I thought we were going to be doing in this season. So pretty excited.
Yeah, I feel like Star Wars. is getting back to its roots. So I'm pretty stoked.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say, and I tend to agree that like it's feeling a lot of ways like George Lucas-y again. Of course, I felt that about the second one too. The second season, I feel like all the Western touches and everything, bits and pieces of things I thought were really cool.
Yeah,
but cool episode. Can't wait for episode 3.
Yep. See you guys next week.
See you next week.